Who's cropping up? Stalkers. Zach, the stock cropper, coming to you on the 24th of July, the start of the week of heat. A lot of things to talk about. Number one we're leading off with is our plot day, which I'm going to give you all the lovely details on now. So the 2023 4th annual stock cropper field day will be held on Saturday, August 26th at 10 a.m. here at our test site location outside of beautiful Buffalo Center, Iowa. And one and all is welcome. The plot day is going to be co-sponsored with Practical Farmers of Iowa. And right now, my keynote speaker that I've got lined up is none other than the Vance Crowe of the Vance Crowe podcast and some other stuff that he does as well with legacy interviews. Vance is going to be here, and I've got a couple other ideas for speakers that I've yet to confirm, but I'll pass that stuff on when we get to that point. So what all are you going to see if you come to Buffalo Center for the stock cropper field day? Number one, you're going to be around a ton of really great people. That's one of the best parts of the event, is the quality of individuals, the creativity that come together. It's a lot of the village idiots that look at this stuff and see some value in it. And so we may not have a lot of locals show up, but we have people that come from all over the country. Usually 6 or 7 states are represented every time. So North Dakota, Kansas, South Dakota, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota, Missouri, all some of the states that have visited this location. But what you're going to see is our gap corn plots that we have, 60, 72, and 90-inch twin rows with summer annual mixes seeded in between. You're going to see the stock cropper plots. We're going to have, if everything goes according to plan, we will have 5 cluster Cluck prototypes all here. The 5000, the Nano, the Nano 2, the Cluster Cluck Max 9, the Big Barn, and last but not least, the long-awaited Cluster Cluck Pico, the backyard poultry barn. We will have all of those here, and I think we will have 3 out of the 5 that will be in full autonomous mode for display as well. So a lot of things to come and look at and observe. We'll also have available, if you want to go see what a field of strip intercropping looks like. The field that I'm going to talk later in this video will be open for tours for people that want to walk and see what it looks like at scale. And it's just going to be a great morning. I always look forward to it every year, and everyone is welcome. All walks of life, whether you're into farming or not. We're going to be sponsored, like I said, by Practical Farmers of Iowa. We will have a lunch wagon here. I've got to get that lined up yet, but more details on that to come, so that if you come to the field day, we'll finish with lunch probably sometime between 12 and 12:30. So I wanted to start the video to get that information out there. I'll have some other things posted on social media with flyers as reminders as we go through. But Saturday, August 26th, 10 a.m., beautiful Buffalo Center, Iowa. Come on down. Okay, so I moved over to our strip intercrop 80-acre field. So these, again, for those that haven't seen, are 20-foot strips of soybeans and 20-foot strips of corn. And a couple things I wanted to make comments on about how this is looking today. So we're seeing the same trend that I've seen in years past, where we really get the west-facing, these are north-south row orientations. The west-facing row definitely grows a lot shorter, versus the east-facing row. It seems like it is trying to stretch more for the afternoon sun with the plants that is competing, and so consistently the east-facing outside row is taller than what the west ones. We see this consistently through all the strips. In this case, the west row is also this was planted into next to where the corn stubble was the year before. You can see it right here. And so these have been a little bit slower too. You can see that this 953 is just actually starting to tassel and pollinate. This thing silks like 111-day corn, while most of my other corn's been pollinated. This stuff is shedding pollen actively today. Still in the middle of the day, you can still see it falling down. It's on the leaves, so not ideal to be pollinating in this heat this week, but we still have moisture underneath this. If you pull some of this stuff up, it's still, you can still see some darkness to the top with the cover that we have here from the residue. But the soybeans are looking good, other than some grasshopper damage, pretty minimal. But we don't have any worms or aphids to speak of yet to this point. But beans are staying clean. We just put Roundup and Liberty on these and looked like that was successful for keeping things clean. So this is what the intercrop looks like with the strips. You can still see our row of shame with the row of nitrogen. It's kind of caught up, but it's still a little bit behind. But hopefully that shouldn't bother too much. But we had 94-day corn on the outside, so we can harvest that first to open things up for the beans. And this stuff's a little bit further along. It's been pollinated for probably a week here, and we've got a real nice, this looks like probably about an 18 by 34, 35 pollinated ear. So looking boisterous. We still need rain here in the northern hinterlands. We've got some moisture in the tank from the 4 inches of rain that we got a few weeks ago over the course of a week. But it is time for another round to hopefully hit us of ridge riding thunderstorms that Eric Snodgrass keeps predicting. So this is what the 10-foot lane looks like behind the cluster Cluck Nano. You can see how far we've gone. We're about halfway through the first run. The issue that we have, though, for the second year in a row is, I don't know if you can see them hopping, but the grasshoppers are just absolutely terrible this year, and they are really nailing our cool season pasture and leaving not much left. All of the forage rape that we have, that is the favorite for the livestock to eat, is probably been consumed by 70%, I would say, of the grasshopper population. Oh, found an egg on the way. So this is the back of the Nano. I don't think we've shown this with birds in them yet. Maybe we have in the last video, I can't remember. But these are the laying hens, and we converted this barn into a laying module. So you can see the feeder up front, the drinkers there, and then our nesting box. And we've got 11 hens in here that are enjoying life in the back and making wonderful stock crop eggs for us as they go through the field. This barn's been working really well. We've got our complete with our snowmobile cleats. If you saw our Twitter, we were getting rain about 2 weeks ago, and it got kind of muddy out here actually for the first time. So we needed to add some additional traction. If you didn't see, we took an old 1977 Polaris snowmobile and ripped the track off of it and cut it into sections around the width. And now we've got better traction on these wheels. So wanted to give you a sense of how the pasture looks. So this is what my forage rape looks like, and a lot of the oats have been eaten. My field peas have been decimated. There just isn't a lot in here. So we just moved the barn here. One thing we do have is lamb's quarter coming through, and the crappy thing is I need to get some goats in this mix because we're leaving the lamb's quarters out the back end, and that is an issue, obviously. So while sheep are great, they are more finicky eaters than what goats are, and we don't want this stuff going to seed. So we're going to throw some goats in the mix and hopefully clean this up. The other thing I'll talk about while I'm in this lane is this is a really good picture of the high density, and you can see with some of the grasshopper damage that's moved into the corn. But this is the high density row with a high population of about, I think, 46,000 in this outside row to get the edge effect. Again, in the 10-foot stock cropper system last year with the Nano and no inputs other than nitrogen, we grew 303 bushel corn in these 4-row high management strip intercrop strips of corn. So now we pop into the summer lane, and we have grasshoppers feasting on this, but not quite at the same level. They don't seem to bother the the sorghum Sudan grass that we have in the mix. So we're going to end up probably speeding up our moves. We're going to go to probably four moves a day to get back into this stuff. And hopefully we catch a rain so that first lane can start to regenerate, because like the last couple summers, you know, we have not gotten normal rainfall again. We have more rain than what we've been used to up to this point the last couple years, but it's still dry. And this system, we really haven't gotten the chance to, you know, be able to catch a rain every week and get stuff regenerating. But once the rains come, I have confidence, and we've got plenty of time. I've seen it before, even when it looks bleak. It's amazing what can happen in a month of growing. So we're over here in the Cluster Cluck 5000. You can see the pigs are in out of the heat. It's going to be a hot week this week, but they're in the shade and staying cool. They like to sit along or next to the water. It drips a little bit, so they like to get their heads there. They compete for the drip spot. But yeah, we got this barn to the point for the last week where we've been just using the winch with solar panels, and we had it anchored out here in front. But we had a mishap with our winch over the weekend. We have the cabling, the distance, you know, we can only keep about 80 foot of cable on the winch, and so we had several chunks together, and I wasn't here this weekend, and we had somebody else doing chores, and we had a communication issue, and so we didn't realize that there was a segment or a connector segment which went into our winch and exploded our winch, which really sucks, because now I need to go buy another winch. But such is life, and that's one of the things, if we're going to do this long winch runs like we're talking about, we're going to have to come up with a solution, because there aren't a lot of winches that are set up to have 750 feet of cable on them. So it's not all winds and roses every day for us here, but so we've got the 560 out here that's going to pull us. I've ordered another winch, and that'll be in here probably at the end of the week, and we'll get this out of here and back to just using solar power to advance the barns. But the sheep are out. Juice just moved this barn, and so they're still getting enough sustenance from the mix that we have. The oats are turning here pretty good, but our other species underneath have just been completely annihilated by the grasshoppers, and they're even starting to chomp pretty good on the corn here. So it would just be nice if we could have a normal Iowa summer where we get 25 to 30 inches of rain, but we're not in charge. One other thing I forgot is we did ring the pigs this last week to minimize the rooting, and you can see that that has made a huge difference. Normally, you know, even when it's dry, it's usually not that big of a deal because they're looking for moisture in the ground a lot of times, and so when it gets drier, they don't root as much. But when it does rain again, we're gonna be glad that we had them wrong. You can see that as we're walking back in here, we are starting to get some regeneration on this forage rape. You know, this stuff can be beat down to about basically nothing. And if we caught a couple rains, this thing will be where we started. I bet will be regrazable probably in about 2.5, 3 weeks, which a lot of people think is crazy. But this is some of the spots where it rained about 10 days ago, where you see the difference in time, and they did a little bit more rooting here. But still nothing too bad. And this is what it looks like a little bit further down the strip, where we're getting full leaves coming back out. The stuff's pissed off, it just needs a drink, and it'll take off. And you can see we've got some of the other species, some of the annual ryegrass, maybe some volunteer oats that have taken off here again. It doesn't look like much, but I've done this enough times to know we catch a rain, this will be a beautiful pasture ready to regraze here in a couple weeks. So for those of you that follow me on Twitter, you'll see that it's been a busy couple weeks. We've had a couple different visitors to the stock cropper plot to see what we're up to. First, we had Kenny O'Brien, who is the North American Agronomy Sciences lead for Corteva. I used to work with Kenny in my previous life, and he's ascended to a pretty prominent role. and wanted to come out and really see what these agronomic concepts that we're working with here with the edge effect and gap corn, and then also was interested in the cluster cluck technology. So it was pretty amazing and cool to have somebody from one of the biggest players in Corteva, my old employer, come out and show interest in the work we're doing here just outside of beautiful Buffalo Center, Iowa. And then this last week on Thursday, we had a big honor. We had Secretary of Agriculture from the state of Iowa, Mike Nag, came for his first visit to the cropper, and we had a really good conversation explaining stuff. He asked a lot of really good questions and was curious and impressed with the gap corn specifically and the possible broad acre implementation options, as well as the cluster cluck stuff. He had not seen that in person before, and then we had a really good conversation at the end where I shared some of my more controversial views with him about crop insurance policy and farm bill stuff, and just to give him my input, and he took that well, which I appreciated. So thanks to Iowa Department of Land and Stewardship for setting that up, and thanks to him for and State Senator Dave Rowley. He came over from Spirit Lake for a tour as well. So those are some of the other things that we've been up to. So what else? The Cluster Cluck Nanos are released into the world. So we launched, I think it was a week or 10 days ago, or 2 weeks ago maybe now. Jason Webster from Precision Planting drove up to Milwaukee and picked up the Cluster Cluck Nano 2, one of the red barns that was at our field day last year. And that barn, I believe, is working at a stock cropper plot with strip intercropping at the PTI farm in Pontiac, Illinois. And the idea is that you're going to be able to, if you go to the PTI farm, whether for any of their farm tours, or I know next week is the National Strip Till Conference, and they have, since Pontiac is just 10 miles north of Bloomington where it's going to be held, they're going to have tours out there. So if you're up that way, you may see me. I may end up popping down for that and make an appearance with the Cluster Cluck. But if not, hopefully check out the Cluster Cluck Nano at the PTI farm. This weekend, Juice and I made a really long road trip down to Marshall, Illinois, which is basically the I-70 line right on the Indiana-Illinois border. So 8-hour drive down there. We went to Milwaukee first, got the barn, and then took off and dropped that off at a TV show called Coop Dreams, which is going to be shooting footage of the Cluster Cluck Nano for the duration of the summer, with episodes to be coming out later this fall on RFD TV and Apple TV and Apple Prime. So some good exposure that we're going to get with our barns. And then, like I said, we will have one of those barns back here for our field day, so everybody can see that one as well. And we may be moving them around more after our field day for demonstration purposes. But a lot of things going on. I haven't shown you the gap corn today, but the gap corn looks really good. Wanted to add one more thing in here. I did want to show you the 72-inch gap corn that we have out at field scale level. So this will also be something you'll be able to come out and walk, where we've got these 2,000-foot strips, a couple, I think 5-10 acres of widespread acreage of this new schematic that I think could be the ticket. So we're walking down it right now, coming off a hill. We've got a little bit of moisture stress with some firing on the lower leaves. You can see we did catch rain, but we haven't had a lot since to support this stuff. And you look and see, like right here, this is getting into the lower part of the field, and you can really see how these 1197 Pioneer ears are just reaching out like airplane wings. And this is 72-inch centered, excuse me, pollen sneeze. 72-inch centered rows that have closed the canopy, which is just freaking incredible what the plants have done. But plant evenness is pretty decent coming along here. Not perfect, but we did not plant this with V-set or anything to have super precise. We just used a regular John Deere plate. But I like what we have out here for population. I like the stalked earth that we have. We're just starting to shoot tassels here today. This is again 1197, so for this far north, the later stuff is just starting to tassel this week in the heat, but down here in the low spot of the field where we got more organic matter, more water holding capacity, and this stuff really looks good. Really, really good. Anyway, a lot of things happening with stock cropper. I don't post enough because we're busy making things go. So that's the latest for today. Appreciate everybody watching. Remember, field day, August 26th, 10 a.m. Saturday morning. Hope to have everybody there. I will have an RSVP Eventbrite link so that we can plan for any lunch counts. So if you intend on be looking for that link. I may actually include that. I'll just say it. I'm going to include it in the show notes or the video notes underneath here and get that link created. So if you're interested in coming, send me an RSVP, and we look forward to seeing you on the 26th. And yeah, party on.